Elizabeth from SAS Financial Advisors. We have Sandy here from We Make Travel Easy, and we'll be talking about travel and retirement. We were just talking about the U-shaped spend in retirement for most folks' financial planning. With enough planning and forethought ahead of time, you can take advantage of those earlier retirement years. Last point on this is everybody does have a travel budget. It's just whether it's intentional or not. If you look back over prior years' spend, typically most people have spent on travel, but oftentimes it's kind of clouded, a little murky. Oh, it was that one trip for that wedding, or we just went to go visit these relatives for what have you. But if you look back over the past few years, averages are typically similar each year. So you do have a travel budget, just looking at it in terms of what additional amount to spend in retirement. So that's a little bit on the financial planning side, but I will let Sandy take over now and talk a little bit about her travel expertise.
Oh, thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you for the opportunity. And thank you for all the great financial advice I get as a client of SAS.
Yes. Sandy's a client. And one more thing, in the chat, in the webinar chat, if you have questions that come up, we'll do a Q&A at the end. So you can jot those down, and we'll do our best to moderate the common top questions when we get to the end as well.
Yeah, that'll be great. We will actually have times. And I'm going to, as Elizabeth spoke, we're talking a little bit, focusing a little bit more on retirement in your empty nester years. But at the end, if you have questions about anything that, that relates to travel, it doesn't have to be about that. I'm happy to answer any of those. I'll even answer questions about the 737-9 MAX as much as I know about that. So here we go. So welcome, everybody. I'm going to take a moment to share my screen and go through a couple of things, and we'll talk about a lot of some very special trips that I think are bucket list trips for everyone, but empty nesters need to prioritize them because of certain conditions and whatever. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see the screen?
Okay. I can, if anyone.
All right, great. Well,
cannot,
if you can see it, everyone else can. Okay.
Great.
All right, so this is the name of my company. We make travel easy. If you don't know me, I am the owner of We Make Travel Easy, and my whole life I've been traveling, and I really think that some of the most extraordinary travel moments happen when you least expect it. So it can be planned, but it also will be inspirational and serendipitous. For those of you who don't know me, I've been on the Condé Nast Top Travel Specialist list for 3 years in a row. I am a virtuoso agency. I'm part of Gifted Travel Network, which is recognized by Forbes Travel Guide. There are only 50 host agencies worldwide who are recognized by Forbes, so it's a great honor for us. According to Host Agency Magazine, I'm in the top 25% of travel advisors nationwide in the US. So you can feel, I'm also a member of the American Travel Advisors Society. So you can feel confident dealing with us. If you have any questions or anything, we're here to help you. Just give you a couple little things. What do we do? Not only do we make travel easy, we make it extraordinary. Here's just some photos of some of our clients enjoying some of their trips. In the lower right-hand corner, he's smoking a cigar in Cuba. And in the middle is me petting a lion. So anyway, there's lots of fun things that you can do in travel. It's always very, very great. So travel in your empty nester years. Many people, been saving, and their kids are not paying for college or for whatever, and now it's your time. So I love this book. If you haven't read it, Die with Zero. It's getting all from your money and your life. And his philosophy is there are certain times in your life when you are healthier and you can do more things. And like Elizabeth talked with the U curve, there's times when you have more money, times when you have less money, but there's times when you have more health and there's times when you have less health. And so you want to epitomize that so that when you get to the point where you can't do the things that you love, and it doesn't have to be travel, it can be whatever, rocks your boat. And you want to be able to feel like you can look back on your life and have wonderful memories and not have any regrets for not doing the things that you should have done when you were younger. So I'm going to go through some top bucket list things that I think lots of people really think about. And one of my most favorite is an African safari. And it's a life-changing experience to go to Africa, to see how well nature is in line between the animals and the plants and everything else, and how it works so well. And the people of Africa are amazing. Sometimes I think it's almost more wonderful to meet the people of Africa than even to see the games. But as you can see, looking in the Jeeps, they're not always the easiest thing to climb in and out of. And in the lower right-hand picture, you can see that those people are actually sitting on seats in the top of the Jeep. To the left, those Jeeps don't have those kinds of seats. But if you want to sit on the top of the Jeep, you got to climb up through that. There's not like an easy way to do it. And then the other thing, which I love, is the African massage. You know, there are no roads. I mean, you're going through bumpy terrain and it really is bumpy. So if you have back issues or something, that's something to consider. And it's really funny. I was on a tiger safari and I had a pedometer with me, and I looked at it and I had done 25,000 steps sitting in the Jeep.
Right, because of the bumps. Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, those are just some things to think about. But Africa's fabulous. I'm actually going on my fourth safari in March of 2025. So if anyone wants to come with me, there's still some space.
Is that typically Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda? I mean, where or further south, where are you looking at in terms of those safari
Um,
trips?
well, the trip that I had, this trip is the Okavango Delta, which is Botswana and Zambia,
Mhm.
and that to me is really the best. Oh, it's all wonderful, but I like the game viewing there because there's a lot of water and the animals look
Okay,
for water.
great.
So there's always water because the Okavango Delta dumps over Victoria Falls, which is, there's three
Mm,
major waterfalls in the world: Iguazu in Argentina, Victoria Falls in, I guess it's Botswana or Zambia. I mean, it's right on the
right.
line, and Niagara Falls in the
Okay.
US. So, you know, there's the water is always there. So it's always there. So there's really great, and also Botswana has private reserves as opposed to some of the national parks. And so they can kind of monitor the amount of people that are going through. So you don't have bus Jeeps, or you don't have lots and lots of Jeeps. And when you do safari in a national park, you must stay on the roads. If you're in a reserve, your guides and your Jeeps can go everywhere and find the animals. So it's a
Right.
different experience. It's a little more luxurious. The
Mhm.
camps are fabulous. So it's just different. And, you know, but I went to Kenya and I absolutely loved it. And I went to Giraffe Manor and I kissed my giraffe. And you know, so I mean, all of Africa is fabulous. It's different. I haven't done
Yeah.
the gorillas yet. It's on my list, and I better do it soon.
Mhm.
That's a real trek, but it's amazing and it's life-changing.
Great. Thank you.
So here's Antarctica. And, you know, sadly with climate change, things are starting to melt in Antarctica, and they're also starting to find bits of plastic in the ice.
Hmm.
So this is one of these destinations that I think is really go to sooner than later, because who knows what's happening. I was just talking to someone earlier today, and they said they went on an Antarctica trip, and when they were there, it was 43 degrees, which is not usual, obviously,
It
but I
is
mean,
now.
with these things are happening with climate change. So it is on my list to do in the end of this year, in the end of 2024. I am going to go to Antarctica this year because I don't want to wait any longer. But these are things to think about. We've got the ecological side of it, but it's also not usually 43 degrees there. It's usually really, really, really cold. In fact, most trips will provide you with extra parkers and things and tell you what you need to do so that you can be prepared for the cold. So, you know, again, that's an issue that you need, you know, are you at a stage in your life that you can handle those temperature changes? And then you're also walking on ice and slippery things and things like that. So you need to have good balance and things like that. So those are some of the things that you need to consider when you're looking at destinations that may have some challenges in the destinations. And how is your health? And, you know, if this is something you want to do it sooner than do it later. It is really a unique place on earth.
Yeah.
I'm
And
going.
maybe in the Q&A, we'll talk more about kind of ADA or just medical assistance and things
Absolutely,
along the way.
absolutely.
Sounds like for a premium, this could be available though. I mean, if you need some mobility assistance in these conditions, but first and
Uh,
foremost, can you
yeah.
physically, be
Yeah, there are
accessible?
some that you can and some that you just can't. Like the next slide, this is a perfect example. And I'm going through some winter spaces in a row, and then we'll go to the warmer
Right.
ways. This is a glacier in
Patagonia.
Argentina.
Okay.
And you can walk on the glacier like you see these people doing. What happens is it's not like, these people who like climb the, Mount Everest and stuff. It's not that kind of thing. It's really walking on the glacier, not you know,
Ice picks and yeah.
yeah, but the thing is, so what they do is they give you these little, looks like sawtooth, clamps that clamp onto your boots, and you walk on the glacier. And when you see that bright blue line, when you look over the edge, I mean, you swear you could look through the other side of Earth. I mean, you don't
Mm,
want to fall down there because you'll never find you.
yeah.
But you cannot do that. Yeah, age 65 is the max. They will not let you walk on the glacier past 65. So, and I can tell you that the glaciers in Argentina is a really fabulous experience. I thought it was much better than Alaska.
Mm,
So if that's something on your list, do it before you're 65. This
mm.
this is on my list. Haven't done it yet, but it's getting high on my list, is to see the Northern Lights in Lapland. You're really, really, really far north, and it's an amazing winter experience. And they have these igloos. If you look at this picture in the lower left-hand corner, that's the bed. The person is standing outside by a fire, but you could lie in bed and
Mm.
watch the Northern Lights. I mean, is that like an amazing, amazing thing? They also have an igloo, an ice hotel, and actually your room and your bed and everything is made of ice. They give you like a sleeping, a special sleeping bag, not your one
Yeah.
that's in your closet, and all this kind of stuff. And you can sleep in the room, and you can get a room that has an adjacent heated bathroom. But should you have to get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, you have to get up in that cold room to go there. So, but it's one of those, I did it once, check it off the list, and
Yes.
it's an amazing fun thing to do. So,
I-
if you want to sleep in the ice hotel, you can. If you want to sleep in the igloo and just, which is nice and warm and cozy, and watch through the glass ceiling, that's another way.
And conditions to travel to Lapland, is that pretty comfortable or is it pretty rural
No, no,
experience?
no, no. Typically what happens is you fly from somewhere in the, wherever you're coming to Helsinki.
Okay,
And then that's your international gateway. And then there's typically flights to
great.
these more remote areas. And then, you get picked up by your
Transit.
guides and stuff and taken. So it's not like, traveling, miles and miles and miles through,
Right.
really you can get to these places.
Okay.
And, the Finns know how to fly in snow. But there's more to do than just lie in your igloo and watch the gorgeous light show at night. I mean, there's all kinds of activities. This woman sitting on a sled, on the edge of a sled, and the reindeer are all in the back. There's a
Mhm.
lot of snowmobiling things. You can do snow walking,
Snowshoes. Yeah.
yeah, snowshoes, I mean, there's just a ton. You can do some of those fabulous saunas and then go in the ice. Also, the indigenous people of the area are called the Samis, and they're the ones that herd the reindeers and do all
Mm,
this. I was reading an article recently about how, um, they were so in tune with the ecology and the environment and everything, but now with global warming and the snow melting and the reindeer don't have enough, and it's kind of starting to upset their lifestyle. So, but they're very, very interesting people, and you can get to meet some Sami people and learn a lot about their culture when you're doing that as well. So there's lots of really interesting things to do. And the best times to do this, the Northern Lights, I think it sometimes start the end of September or October, but usually November through March. You don't want to get too late in March. About mid-March is good. But then again, we never know what year. It might go a little later, but that's the best time to go
great.
to see the best light show.
Okay.
Now we're getting kind of warm weather. So this, I like to call the Galapagos a marine safari, because you're going to see all kinds of animals, but that's marine animals. And the one thing, the Galapagos is a national park, even though it's made up of several islands, and it's about 600 nautical miles off the coast of Ecuador. And so you go to these different islands. No one lives there. There's one or two islands where people live. Everything else is just the animals.
Hmm.
And so, you can be in a beautiful ship. The ships are small. I mean, the largest ship in the Galapagos is 100 passengers. So we're not talking 2,000, 3,000 size, ocean sailing ships. So they can get pretty close to the islands, but sometimes they can't get all the way in, and you have to do what we call a wet landing. So then you get in a little Zodiac, and then you have to get to the
Shoveled in.
island. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's a beach and that's easy, or sometimes it's a cliff and you gotta like go to the side and climb up over and stuff. So those are those kinds of physical things that sometimes can be challenging, and you need to think about, when are you in the right time of your life to be able to enjoy something like this. The Galapagos is another very unique place on Earth. I mean, because of the way it's isolated, the animals and the birds they don't have predators. So, you can walk up to a bird's in a nest, the blue-footed boobies and the red-footed boobies and all those other, even hawks, you can walk right up to them because they are not afraid. They're not, and then they've been protected for so long, they have no fear of, people being hunted and whatever. And the seals, these look more like teenage seals, but sometimes you see these baby cubs and they're just like little puppies. I mean, you just want to pet them, but you can't, because they can't get the smell of a human on them, because then, the mothers won't do all this stuff. But you can see that these people are in kind of wetsuits, so they may have had a wet landing coming here. What's really lovely is in some of these places you can dive, or you can snorkel, you can swim with the seals. There's sea lions, I think they are here. There's, manta rays, there's all kinds of things that, so if you're a real swimmer. And there's also penguins, just like the penguins that you see in Africa. They're the, warmer weather penguins. And you can swim with the penguins just depending on who's around. You can see a condor. You can see all kinds of fabulous things. So it's a really fabulous, fabulous trip.
Have you done the Galapagos, Sandy?
Yes, I have.
Ah, very nice.
And Machu Picchu, everybody talks about Machu Picchu, and there's very many, and it's interesting, people think that Machu Picchu is very high. Machu Picchu is not so high. It's Cusco, which is where you fly into, or you take a train into, and that's at a very high elevation. And it's interesting because the elevation has nothing to do with, whether you're an athlete or not. It's more about your own lung capacity. And I have known a ranked tennis player who, couldn't walk around, and other people who, don't do any couch potatoes, and they were fine. But it does take a little time to acclimate. What the locals use is cocoa tea. It's made from the same plant that cocaine is made from, but doesn't get you high. It doesn't get you speedy, but it does help a lot with the altitude sickness. So it's, something to do. But the way to get to Machu Picchu is either you hike the Inca Trail, which can be very challenging, several days into and up and down. Look at the mountains surrounding it, so you can get an idea about what the hiking would be. Or you can fly into Cusco from Lima. Or one of the things that I really love is train. And Lake Titicaca is a big lake in the north of Peru, and that's where the Inca Adam and Eve story started. So there's a bunch of little islands in the middle of this big lake, like a Lake Tahoe kind of lake. And one of the islands is supposedly where their equivalent of Adam and Eve started for all the Inca Indians. So it's very interesting. And there's a fabulous, beautiful train that goes up in the mountains. So it takes you from Lake Titicaca into Cusco, which gives, I don't know, remember if it takes 2 days or 3 days or something like that. But it gives you a little time to acclimate. So, there's lots of different ways and lots of different things to see. Peru is a fabulous country. It has lots of interesting things to see and do. So it's worth doing don't just go for Machu Picchu. There's so much more to see and do in Peru. And if you're a foodie person, Lima has some of the top restaurants worldwide. Central, which I think is always like #1 on the list, if it's 2 or 3 in Lima. So, if you're a foodie person, you want to spend some time in Lima.
Great. And the train goes from Lake Titicaca to
To
Cusco
Cusco.
and then is it another hike into
No, no,
Machu
no, no.
Picchu? Okay, it's just
No, the
right
way
there.
you get from, I'm sorry, good question. Thanks, Elizabeth. From when you're in Cusco, there's a train. It's a switchback train that goes up into the mountains. So you take a train from Cusco and it's a day trip,
Uh-huh.
or you can overnight at the base below Machu Picchu is Aguas Caliente, and there's a bunch of hotels and restaurants and stuff. And then when you get there, there's a bus that takes you up to Machu Picchu. There is
Great.
a hotel at the entrance of Machu Picchu. Now it's a beautiful 5-star hotel. When I was there, it was really run down. It made Motel 6 look good.
Okay.
But the reason we stayed there was if you stayed at that hotel at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, everyone has to leave Machu Picchu, except at that time, the people who were staying at the hotel. So we sat and watched the sunset with the llamas.
That's beautiful.
Unfortunately, you can't do that anymore.
Okay.
So you are there at the hotel at the gate, and I guess you can get in early and be the last ones out or something. But there's, once you're there at 3 o'clock when it's closed, there's nothing else around there except this gorgeous hotel.
Mhm.
If you take the bus down to Aguas Caliente, there's more hotels, there's some shops, there's some restaurants. So, or you can take the train back. I think you can do it in one day. So, but it's a train ride, and it's a beautiful train ride from Cusco to Machu Picchu.
Great.
So for those people who love the water and the sun and everything, a sailboat charter is great. You can rent sailboats around the world. I've done it several times in the Caribbean. You can do it in Turkey, you could do it in France, you can do it in Greece, you can do it anywhere in the world that, is great for sailing. If you're not an experienced sailor, these charter companies will provide a captain and a crew, usually, sometimes they're husband and wife teams or something like that. And they will not only sail the boat for you, but they will make these gourmet meals and you'll have a fabulous time. And it's a lot of fun and a lot of interesting way to experience, certain countries or certain areas from the water. But again, you're on a sailboat, so, there's some balance issues. You have to be able to get up and down and do all that kind of stuff. And if you're not used to a marine head, that's something also to get used to. What we would do is, my person I was with was a very good sailor, so we never had the captains with us. But what we would do is we would sail all day, and then we would pull in someplace, and we would shower at the port, and we'd go out to dinner. We made
Yes.
breakfast and lunch on the boat, but we didn't want to be doing
Right.
dinner and have to do dishes and all that kind of stuff. So we would always go out to dinner. So there's lots of ways that you can enjoy the local culture and still be on the boat. And it's really a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had some family friends to Belize this way
Yeah, no,
recently.
and
It was a
right.
really
It's
great trip.
great.
Mhm.
It's really, really great. So Petra and Jordan, I mean, if you've watched the Indiana Jones movie and, they're going down the canyon, and then when you're there and you walk down this canyon, and as you get closer and closer, it gets narrower and darker. And then all of a sudden it opens up and there's the Treasury building. This is
Mm.
not a picture of the Treasury building, but it's a dramatic, dramatic sight. And then there's this huge, I don't know how many acres and acres and acres what was this? It was a trading city, when I think it was like the 1800s and maybe before that, when they were bringing all their goods and services, Petra was the New York City of, or the Panama Canal of, all these things and everybody. So it was a huge city with with markets and this and that. It's all, ruins now and architectural things, but it's very, very fascinating. But it's also very large.
Mhm.
But you can see from the picture that it's all like, loose stones and everything. There's no ADA here. There's no OSHA. There's
Mhm.
nothing. So, you have to be careful when you're walking around.
Mhm.
Also, certain times of the year, it can be very, very, very hot. Like could be over 100 degrees.
Okay.
That's me in the middle on the camel,
Nice.
because we had gone to the very, very far end, and there was this great young kid. Actually, I think it was his picture on the front with the camel, who kept following us, and he was so adorable. So I said, okay, we're at the end, we'll do it back. So we took the camel all the way back to the entrance where the Treasury building is. And then you have to walk up. I mean, when you walk down the canyon, the only way back is up. They do have some buggy rides, but people who have taken them said they're really, really uncomfortable.
Okay.
So, there's just some things to think about when you're thinking about some of these places. But I've been here twice and I'd go back again. It's just amazing. And every time you go, there's just more things to see. So, and what I learned here is that, people have taken a ride on a camel and its gait is kind of, uncomfortable. But when camels move quickly, like the camels were running, it's very smooth. It's just that most people, they're just getting pulled around and it's a slow, loppy thing. But I could see how people could ride on camels for long distances because going quickly, it's a much smoother ride.
Interesting. That's a good distinction.
And then after Petra, on the way back to wherever you're going, you have to go to the Wadi Rum, which is this desert, and you do what they call a kind of like a desert safari, and you drive around the desert. This is where Lawrence of Arabia spent a lot of time, and there's even, a rock where his name is carved into it and stuff, and you can do some fabulous overnight glamping. So it's a nice way to kind of, add on to Petra and do that as well. And then hot air balloon rides. I love hot air balloon rides. I mean, this is over the Masai Mara in Kenya. And it's a little hard to see the animals because we were just going up, so we weren't quite near to where they were, but you can see some other balloons in the background. This is a very large basket. This is the largest basket I've ever been in. Usually it's 4 to 6 people at the most. But you can see it's a basket and you got to climb in it. And then when it lands, it just lands and you have to bend
Brace
down and
yourself.
crunch and it's not going to roll over, but it's going to bump. And I'll show you the next picture. So here, this is in the lower left-hand corner, that blue, that's from the basket we're in. And the truck in the upper left-hand corner is following us because we're getting ready to land. And on the back of the truck is just what they're going to take the basket back after they pick us up to go back to where it is. This was the most amazing landing. If you look in the picture on the right-hand side, we are in the basket. The basket landed on the back of the truck. I think this happens once in a million times.
Okay.
I mean,
Amazing.
that's totally amazing. But it happened. We landed on the back of the truck. I mean, obviously there were guys who were grabbing the ropes and making sure we stayed there, but to get that close to be able to land on the back of the truck was really once in a lifetime.
That's amazing.
Oh, Morocco. Morocco's been on a lot of people's lists, and there's Casablanca and Marrakesh, and drink the tea, and there's the Yves Saint Laurent Museum and house in Marrakesh and Fez, and there's many religions have had a lot of history in Morocco, and it's beautiful, but they have the Atlas Mountains and the Berber people. And you would go into it's a long drive into the Atlas Mountains, but then you get met by your camel, and then you go to this amazing glamping space, and the tents are nice. It's nice to stay in a Ritz-Carlton. But at night, I mean, look at these people sitting around this campfire. I mean, it's a little hard to see on this blue thing because it's like it didn't come through as well. You have a beautiful starry night, and there's no light pollution.
Wow.
So, it's just an amazing experience.
Looks like it.
So
a little bit. The food in Morocco
the tangines and Moroccan food is amazing. The driver I use to go to the airport all the time is Moroccan, and it's like, I just want to go back and see his family and have his mother's cooking when he talks about her food. So this is kind of what we do. We do a lot of we do independent private travel. That's a big part of our business, but we also do groups. So a lot of family life cycle celebrations, a 50th anniversary. I've done a lot of trips for someone whose child is studying abroad
Yeah.
and they're going to go pick them up and they make a vacation out of it. 80th birthdays, that's kind of things. And when you have the multi-generational things, that's when you need to start thinking about maybe grandpa or grandma needs some mobility issues, or maybe you've got a young child who has some issues. I mean, it's not just older people. So, there's lots of ways to work around, and some destinations and some modes of travel are much more mobility friendly than others. And those are what you choose, that works with what your needs.
Hmm.
We also do, trips for business. I do a lot with nonprofits using the trip as a fundraiser and affinity groups. I mean, you belong to a golf club, you got a bunch of people that would want to go play St. Andrews or somewhere in Ireland, or maybe you want to go to La Paz, Bolivia and be in the highest golf course in the world. Your balls go really far there.
Yeah. Thin air. Yeah.
So, for example, I'm doing this opera themed trip for Marilla is a part of the San Francisco Opera where they train young singers. So that in accordance with the Singers Gym, and we're going to be going from Budapest to Vienna, two
Hmm.
iconic opera houses, and you'll get to see, and we're calling it peek behind the curtain because you're actually getting to see how these young singers are trained, and you'll see the whole thing and end up in a performance, as well as experience the beautiful Four Seasons in Budapest and, all the ways between Budapest and Vienna. We'll be sailing on an Alma Waterways ship, and it's just going to be fabulous. And you don't have to be an opera aficionado. This is just going to be fun. It's going to be a party. If your travel companion's not into opera, there's lots of other things to do. They can eat bratwurst and drink beer and
Hmm.
whatever. So it's a great trip. And
And
then,
you've done other trips like was there a flower association?
yes, yes. And in 2022 was Floriade. And
Florida.
it's once in a decade. It's kind of like the World's Fair of Flowers.
Hmm.
And all these countries around the world bring together and they have booths, they have you know, I don't know what the right thing is, but they have buildings and pavilions, that's the word. And, they show their things about, what they're doing agriculturally or florally or whatever. And it's really, it's fascinating. And
Great.
so we did a similar thing with that. We went to see Floriade and then did a river cruise with it.
Very
And then
cool.
there's escorted trips. Some are, I call them come with me trips.
Hmm.
For example, I've got an African safari where we are going to the Okavanga Delta in March of 2025. And also Colombia in May of 2025. Alma Waterways is starting to sail there, the first river cruise in
Oh,
Colombia. And I'm going to plan my own pre and my own post to see other parts of the country aside from what's on the river. So that's there. And then if you love Italy and you love food and you love cooking, you have to go on this trip, September to Remember. The author is a travel and culinary writer. She's written about 5 or 6 books about travel in Italy and France, and she's won awards and everything. And she wrote this book, A September to Remember, of her culinary trip through Italy. And
mm.
we're recreating her trip. So going to some of the same places with cooking classes along the way and the
Oh,
whole
wow.
thing. So it'll start in Milan and end up on the Amalfi Coast and fly home from Rome. So that's a fabulous way to see Italy.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely delicious. I didn't know you did the study abroad family trips way back
Oh,
when I did a study abroad in Dakar, Senegal, and I think that would have been a nice compliment at the time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Your, parents or whoever were picking you up could pick you up and then
Hmm.
add on a trip after that.
Yeah, that's great.
So here's my contact information. It's really easy to find me, info@wemaketraveleasy.com. And at the bottom is my website, wemaketraveleasy.com. So very easy to do that. Well, we'll leave it open to questions. I mean, this is a quote that I love. Using a travel consultant is like a great bottle of wine. You may never know all the love and attention that went into creating the trip, but you'll definitely taste it.
Yeah.
So we love to make our clients happy and their travel is seamless and it gives us great joy.
Yeah. Thank you, Sandy. This is wonderful. If as attendees would like to, ask questions, they're welcome to in the webinar chat and we can address them as well. I have to say travel agents way back a few decades ago had a certain appeal and purpose, and that somewhat shifted just with technology. I can go and find my own airfare now, and I can find presumably the best airfare rates and things like that. I can book, hotel bookings online. Everything with the internet has certainly changed things, but there's still a lot of benefit and value to working with a travel agent that you and I have discussed. So maybe we could start with some of those highlights, such as connecting flights and knowing the times.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll give you some good examples. I mean, we like to refer to ourselves as travel advisors now,
Okay.
consultants, very much
Yeah.
like that, because we're not booking agents. And, and a lot of people thought that, travel advisors disappeared and,
Hmm.
we were replaced by Expedia and everybody else. Well, if you're going to go to New York and you just need an airline ticket and you want to book a hotel, that's fine. If you want to do anything fabulous and with great private guides and everything, you're not going to do a great trip online.
Hmm.
And also we have access to companies that don't deal with the public.
Right.
So they're there. And if you have a problem with your airfare,
Well, that's
um,
the thing is, yeah, the on the ground support in the
right,
country you're
exactly.
visiting. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a problem and you have to call Expedia customer service, good luck.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't exist. And, just I'll give you a perfect example this morning. I have clients that are going to they're going to Miami, they're taking a cruise, they're ending in Panama, they're going to stay in Panama for a couple of days, and then they're going to fly to Colombia and then come back. And it's two women and they're coming from different cities. Well, 737-9 Max of Copa, which is the Panamanian airline, which probably takes care of a lot of what they're doing.
Hmm.
They have 29 planes, 21 are 737-9 Max.
Okay.
So, right now and it's United and it's Alaska and it's a bunch of other airlines. So we had looked at return flights for her, and it was also a possibility with JetBlue. And I just made the decision that we don't know whether the planes are going to be fixed by then, and I don't want her to be stuck at the end. And she was so grateful to think that we were thinking about her
Hmm.
that perspective. And, we're going to put her on the JetBlue flight. She'll have to change planes in Fort Lauderdale and go through customs there rather than just flying back to San Francisco. But given the possibility that the plane might not be, flying, she was happy. And then the person she's flying with, her daughter went and booked her ticket with miles, which is great. I mean, I love when clients do miles, but she only gave her not enough time to change planes in Miami, deplane, go through passport control, pick up your bag, recheck your bag. And then she comes in on Terminal D in Miami, and flying to Dallas Fort Worth in the evening is often out of Terminal E. And in an hour and 15 minutes, that's not going to happen.
No, no. Yeah. Too quick.
And that's if the plane's on time. So, I mean, there's just lots of things. I mean, statistically, they say that you save $500 by using a travel advisor just from mistakes
Right.
people make, let alone. Plus, the other thing that which is more than that, is I say to my clients, you can't VIP yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
just had today, I have clients going up just locally. They're just going for a weekend. It's a birthday anniversary celebration. They're going to the Madrona Inn in Healdsburg, which has been redone and it's
Mm.
gorgeous, and the whole thing. So we got them a package there. And the Madrona Inn wrote back to me and said, oh, we're going to upgrade them to this suite.
Mm. That's nice. That's very nice.
When it's a hotel that's a Forbes recommended hotel, because I'm associated with Forbes, what I do is when we have the reservation, I go to the Forbes website, I enter the reservation, that goes to the general manager of the hotel.
Hmm.
I had clients that were going to a Six Senses in Cambodia. I mean, the general manager spoke to them, they went to
Yeah.
dinner, they got a wonderful upgrade. Those are those kinds of things. We're Virtuoso. If it's a Virtuoso hotel, you have all these amenities that come along with Virtuoso: breakfast, late check-in, early check-in, late check-out, usually $100 credit at the hotel you can use for other food or spa or whatever. We're members of all the elite hotel programs. So whether it's Hyatt or Marriott or St. Regis or Peninsula or, Roccoforte or any of those, our clients get all kinds of extra amenities and
Right.
sometimes even better rates. So, there's lots that we bring to the table.
Yeah.
And lots of cruise lines. I mean, we can get onboard credits, sometimes special excursions, all kinds of things. It's not every single one, but and you can't do that yourself.
Not easily, no. And, even though we had the focus of this webinar on bucket list destinations, I mean, you can work within different kind of price ranges. I mean, certainly
Right.
towards the top, but on down a little bit. And so there are different, choices and options that,
Well, and
working with a
actually,
travel advisor can work with.
right, and the way that I work, I mean, I'm a generalist. I can't know every single I mean, I've been to almost 80 countries, but that's not knowing the in-depth of every country. So I have vetted partners in every destination in the world.
Hmm.
And their job, it's like you come to me and you say, this is what I want to do. These are my interests. These are the days I want to go. This is what I like to do. I interpret that and talk to my partner in the destination. They are the experts in the country. They know when the trains run, they know when the holidays are, they know what the best places are, they know how to skip the line, they know the off the beaten track place that nobody else ever heard of, the best restaurants, and they have the absolute best guides because the best
Right.
guides want to be working all the time. They don't want to
Yes.
be on tours by locals and hope that they get a job tomorrow.
Right.
These are people who are employed. So you get the best guides, you get the best everything, and you have 24/7 support in country.
That's great.
So if something happens,
Yeah, you had that
calling
passport
me
anecdote.
9,000 miles
Yeah.
away, I mean, I want to help you best I can, but I can't do much. I
Right.
mean, I had clients who were locked out of their room in Rome, and why they called me, they were nervous. They dialed the office number and not the 24/7. So I called the 24/7. We got the key and got them in. But I mean,
Right.
that's what happens. And I had clients that were doing a self-drive in New Zealand, and there was a landslide. And
Mm.
so their trip, they couldn't get there. The road
Right.
was closed, so they couldn't get to the hotels they were supposed to go to and go on that path. So we had our local people in New Zealand reroute them, cancel the hotels, make new bookings, and they were on their way in less than 24 hours. I
Wow.
mean, try and do that on your own.
No. Yeah.
And, if you want to make a change during your trip, I had clients that were going to Croatia and they were using Turkish Air and there was a change in the flight and they had to go a day earlier or something. Well, the accommodation that they wanted wasn't available the day before. So they had to go to an upgraded room and pay a little bit more. They could afford it, but it
Hmm.
was kind of, they were kind of mad at Turkish Airlines. So what did my travel partner in the destination? Ended up getting them an upgrade to the presidential suite to make
Oh,
them
very
feel
nice.
better for that.
Very nice. That's great.
It didn't cost them anything. I said it was fabulous. So, and people don't realize that when you go to a hotel, when you go to a hotel, you're a one-shot deal at the hotel. When
Hmm.
I book somebody at a hotel, the hotel really wants my guests to have a great time so that I will book more people there.
Right.
So
Right.
you have a whole different, and when you book on Expedia or any of those other things, you typically get the lesser room in the hotel because they're
No.
going to
Yeah.
give the room with the better view to my client, not to the person who booked on Expedia.
Sure. Another question I had about this probably shows I'm in a different phase of life, not quite there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But traveling to, I mean, when you're talking about on the ground guides and like in the past or, early travel experiences for me in life, the travel guide could show you like the best place to get, exchange your traveler's checks or get currency exchange. How has, from a financial standpoint, I mean, how has spending in your destination country changed? I mean, is it all mobile apps, credit cards? I mean, what does it look like? What does the
It
landscape look
depends
like?
on where you are, what country. I was in the Netherlands on that
Mhm.
trip with the Floriade trip. What I typically do is wait till I'm in country and I go to an ATM. And
Right.
my bank lets me go to ATMs around the world, doesn't even charge me a fee. But even if they charge you the $3 or $4,
Yeah.
and then I take the currency. Luckily, I can take small amounts out because I'm not paying every time I take it out.
Hmm.
So you want to leave the country with as little of the currency as possible. In the Netherlands, there were no ATMs.
Yeah, what do you do then?
Everybody uses their phone.
Interesting. Okay.
And so, it
Well,
was,
there isn't that it could be Sweden, but one of the countries they and like Nokia came
yeah,
from there, so
exactly.
it's
I mean,
mobile technology.
so that's one of the things to know when you're going someplace about that,
Mhm.
because, I mean, if you have a planned trip, most of your expenses are prepaid,
Okay,
but you want to tip your guides in the currency of the country. So
right.
that's where you need the cash. But when you go to a country that's almost cashless,
What do you do?
it
Yeah.
started to get, a little problematic.
Okay.
Fortunately, it was euros, so, whatever, it worked out. But I mean, that was one of those things. But typically what I say is use the ATMs. And in most countries, there's ATMs all
Mhm.
over. But now after that experience, I check before clients are going to see the availability of ATMs.
Interesting. Interesting. That's great. Um, so we talked about a little bit about, ADA accessibility and medical situations and travel insurance. I mean, do your trips usually come with travel insurance, or is that
Travel insurance is optional.
mhm,
I'm a big proponent of travel insurance. I buy travel insurance for every single trip that I go on
mhm,
because I see the claims, and it doesn't have to be illness.
mhm,
I had clients that were on Galapagos trip, and when they got off the ship, it was about 2 years. It was before COVID, but there was a strike in Ecuador,
mm,
and all the roads were closed, and they couldn't get to where they were going. I mean, it was a whole thing. Fortunately, so we kind of redid their itinerary. My partner, my Ecuador partner, redid their itinerary, and we were going to fly them to from Guayaquil to Guanica. But I didn't realize they had to go through Quito. And when they went through Quito, just when they got there, the airport got closed down.
mm,
And they called me and they said, people are sleeping on the ground. But I said, don't worry, because I had a travel partner there with connections and everything. They had a hotel room at the airport
okay.
when other people were sleeping on the ground. So it took a couple of days. They were there a couple of days. When it finally opened up, they could have continued on to the
Mhm,
rest of their itinerary, but by then they had it and they just wanted to go home. So when they went home, I mean, fortunately that the airline just made everything, but they claimed for the whole part of the trip that they couldn't go to,
right.
with several thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I had other partners that booked, other clients, I mean, they booked miles from San Francisco to wherever, I think it was to Amsterdam or something, and they had to change planes in Detroit. It was a flight that went through there with their mileage. Well, the flight was very late from San Francisco. Then they didn't know whether they were going to make that. They weren't. So then they were in Detroit and it was late, and they weren't going to make their connecting flight to go to where they finally needed to go. And so we stayed up here till midnight to find out everything, and because we had to wait till they landed in Detroit to know when they were getting on the next leg,
Mhm,
and what flight they would make it, because there were two flights. Well, the flight that they booked that was paid for was not part of their mileage thing. So that was money that was lost. And
mm,
try and buy a ticket day of, how expensive an airline ticket is day
yeah.
of, all of that was covered by travel insurance.
And is it a percentage of the cost of the trip? I mean, how do they determine the
No,
pricing?
it's a complicated algorithm,
Okay.
and the younger you are, the least expensive it is. And if you have children 17 or under, they're free.
Okay.
And it's probably the only time your kids save you money, because the trip is $10,000 and there's four of you and two of them are under 17. You're not paying for them, but the trip gets divided by four.
Interesting. Okay.
So the parents are only paying on a quarter of it.
Hmm.
So that becomes, and it's an algorithm with age. So it depends on where you're going, how long you're traveling, and how old you are. And so younger people, it's really, really expensive. When
Hmm.
you start getting into your late 60s, 70s and stuff, it gets close to 10% of your trip.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's still worth it for, you just kind of put it in as a travel expense, because if you use it, you are so happy you have it. I mean, and
Especially
as
for
I
one of these once in a lifetime type trips, you don't want
well,
to.
for any trip, I mean, it's an
Yeah.
investment. You're insuring your investment. I
Mhm.
mean, you have house insurance. You don't want it to burn down to use your insurance,
Right, right,
but when it burns down, you're glad you had the insurance.
right.
And things
Relative
happen.
to redoing the entire trip in real time, and I could see
Right.
that.
And, or sometimes something happens before a trip.
Mhm.
I mean, you might have elderly parents or grandparents who pass away and then you got to do it, or somebody gets sick. I mean, they fall down the steps and break their leg and they can't go on the trip now.
Mhm.
I mean, I had clients that went to India. They landed in India. They were supposed to be there for 5 weeks and his mother passed away.
Mm.
It was like a
Yeah.
$50,000 trip.
Yeah.
So not only did we turn around and get them home right away, they got all the money back for their trip.
Well, that definitely sounds like the most compelling option when it comes to kind of protecting your trip. One other kind of final question is a little more light. You you seem to have really good insight in comparing kind of global entry versus TSA pre-check. It's a very travel specific question, but I thought it'd be a good one we can
Okay,
close out on.
so if you, TSA pre-check only allows you to go through the TSA pre-check line on domestic flights, and basically that's what
That's
it
the
lets you
advantage.
do.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's $85 for 5 years.
Okay.
And a lot of credit cards, I don't know about the TSA. Global entry is $100 for 5 years.
Okay.
So for $15 difference, you now speed through passport control. So when you get off, if you come off an international flight, you may or may not have noticed signs, global entry this way, everybody else that way.
Hmm.
And it's gotten, from the time I've gotten it, it's gotten even better and better. Right now, it used to be you used to have to put your passport in, used to do your fingerprints, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like it looks in your eyes and
Yeah, I was gonna
you're
say
done.
retina scan. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Interesting.
mean, you don't even have to say, what did you buy? What didn't you buy? Whatever. And you go through. I mean, I've been through with global entry where I've gone on the other side, collected the bags, gotten everything, and still waiting for my travel companion who's standing in passport control.
Yeah.
And if you arrive at the time when there's several flights that arrive at the same time, passport control can be
Overwhelmed.
insane. So, I mean, and global entry gives you TSA pre-check.
Oh,
So
interesting. So it comes with, because there's, yeah, it's
yeah,
having both sounds.
yeah, you have for 15 more dollars, you
Mhm.
now go back from an international trip. Now it's a little bit more complicated to get it. You have to apply and they go through, your Homeland Security goes through a big search, and then you have to do an airport interview.
Mm.
So you have, and not every airport, but San Francisco does. And then you have to have an appointment. You have to go down to the airport and they will take a photo and fingerprint you and ask you a few questions and you're done. And
Okay.
sometimes that's been the hardest part, is finding a convenient time
Mhm.
to be at the airport. Now, what they do say is if you're coming back from a international flight and you need to you need your global entry appointment, you can do a walk-in from returning from an international flight. My global entry just came up for renewal. So I went through the thing and then they said I had to have an appointment. So I'm flying to Amsterdam on March 5th. So that luckily there was an appointment earlier than my flight. So I was just going to go to the airport early and do my appointment. But I'm also going to Panama in February. So I figured, well, I'll try on my way back from Panama if I can to
Mm.
my appointment. But then I got a notice from them saying you're approved, you don't need the appointment.
Huh.
So the
Okay.
process has become so easy. And on one of my credit cards, global entry is one of the benefits that they pay for. So when I charged the global entry, I didn't even have to say anything. When my credit card came in, it was a charge for global entry and it was a refund for the global entry. So
Interesting.
it's like, if you plan any international travel, it's so worth it. I mean, even if you don't travel a lot, I mean, for $15 for 5 years, difference between TSA pre-check and
Right.
global entry, it's worth the hassle of having to go for the appointment the first time.
Okay. That's a really great rundown on that. Well, with that, I mean, thank you so much. If any of our clients have questions anywhere on our website, sasadvisors.com, you can click on the clients button. We have our headshots to get our schedules, and you can book a meeting to talk about, travel budget planning if that's of, consideration for you in the coming years. Otherwise, Sandy is available. You said
Right.
info@wemaketraveleasy.com.
Right. Feel free to ask a question. I'm happy to help.
Great, excellent. Well, thank you so much. We
Let me,
really appreciate it.
since it's
Yeah.
in the news, I just want to let everybody know, because I don't know who's traveling or whatever. On this 737 MAX 9,
Hmm.
those are the planes that are grounded. If your flight is on a 737-900, that is not the same plane.
Okay.
That plane is an older plane. That plane is not grounded, and it's a little confusing for some people. So if you see that your plane is a 737-900, you're good to go.
Okay.
It's the
So
737-9 Maxes that are grounded for now. But let me tell you, once they're going to be back up in the air, they're probably going to be the safest airplanes, because they're being gone over with a fine
yeah,
tooth comb.
let's hope so. Absolutely. Great. Well, that was a good kind of final closing note given current events on that. But thank you. And thanks everyone who attended as well. And have a great week.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.